got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul.
I love singing out and breathing a little deeper. This is our first Lenten Sunday. It started on Wednesday, and we have the advantage of following Lent as a spiritual practice. And we are using this magnificent pamphlet. It's the Release and Renew 2022, a spiritual practice for Lent. If you don't have a copy, on the welcome table right out there, pick up a copy before you leave. It's got wonderful articles and some day-by-day guides. It's really quite beautiful. Now, within Lent is observed in many Christian traditions. And a lot of Christian traditions see this as a time of giving up, of letting go of something, usually something we're really attached to. Which Unity talks about that a lot. We call it letting go and surrender. And that's, I think we need to do that all the time, not just for Lent. But we're looking at this, the highest truth for Lent. What if we join together and seek the highest truth for this Lenten journey? So let's talk about that. I use the wisdom of Reverend Eric Butterworth. Many of you know his powerful books. He's written wonderful, wonderful books that are so accessible to us. He was a great leader in New York. And here he says, commit yourself to a diet of words that are positive and loving. A diet of words that are positive and loving. Whether you're talking to or about people, events, or ideas, let something good be said. Now, this is very wise words. No wonder it's in the month of wisdom. We can easily think negative thoughts. Anyone else can think a negative thought? Real easy. In fact, if I said, look in the mirror and give me 10 things you could say negative about yourself, we could probably rattle them all off so fast. But at the same time, we have the consciousness, the power to choose what we're going to entertain in our minds. And if we can give ourselves, commit to a diet of words that are positive and loving, it will transform our life. It'll transform our way of relating to life. It'll transform the world. He goes on to say, Lent can be a dynamic experience, not by what you give up as much as what you take up. I think this is significant because one of the definitions of Lent is spring. And what happens in spring? There's birth, there's growth, there's a lot of things grow. And think what it takes. Down deep in the dirt, there's seeds or old roots that have to burst through all that dirt to get to the sunlight. Isn't that our own experience? When we're in our darkness, we need to just buck up and break through it. Let's take up the idea of holding the highest truth for Lent. Let's see the highest truth no matter what the situation in the world or in our life. And I can guarantee you that when we arrive at Easter, we will have a tangible sense of deeper peace, feeling more whole, being better rested by the spiritual practice of holding the highest truth. Reverend Georgiana Tree West was invited by Charles Fillmore to write the foreword for his wonderful book, Keep a True Lent. Now, this book is foundational in unity. It's one of Charles's best books, I think. And this foreword is so rich with profound wisdom from Reverend Georgiana. So here she says, when we give the same attention, interest, and support to the enduring good, we are feasting on the things of spirit. And this is true prayer. And isn't that what it's like? What we focus on becomes our experience. And if we're focusing on good, uplifting, loving thoughts, what we're going to experience is good, affirming, loving experience. And isn't this what prayer is for us? Affirmative prayer. I talked about it last week. It's this energy that's always with us. That spirit of the Christ-centered being of God is always with us. And within that we can tap into, we can connect with that truth through that prayer. And that's the highest truth. She goes on to say, now is the time to affirm the power of the Christ Spirit indwelling in all men, everywhere, and influencing their thoughts, words, and actions to work for the good of the whole. This is the power of prayer. And when many of us have been asked to, and we participated in prayer for Ukraine, and many of the other worldly chaoses that are abounding. And when we do that, it's not focusing on the pain of the people involved, whether they're Russian or Ukrainian. What we do is affirm the indwelling Christ in each and every person involved in that situation. And we hold the highest truth. So we see that high truth, that love, that Christ Spirit in everyone, including the leaders, including Vladimir Putin. It's not ours to direct leaders, but all leaders are there because our energy and our collective humanity have risen them to that place, or they wouldn't be leading. But we can influence the world with our powerful prayer by holding the highest truth. So speak to the light in all the leaders. Speak to the Christ Spirit within all. Speak to the Christ Spirit within us. And that's the highest truth. The truth that's always true. And then human experience gets involved with our fears and our prejudices and but that's just the human stuff. On the spiritual plane, we're all one. Now, it's a spiritual practice, and I'm inviting you to join me in stepping into holding the higher truth, no matter what's going on. I love this way of looking at prayer. Ralph Waldo Emerson, a wise man, says, prayer is the contemplation of the facts of life from the highest point of view. I love that, because what it calls us to is right now in the present moment, what's true with me? Having a high view of just what's true. What's always true is I'm one with God. That perfect pattern, our Christ's nature, is always present. We are on a great journey together. And as people of unity, as truth students, we awaken to our interpretation of truth. That's who's walking with it. Each of us is walking with our truth. So let it be a contemplation of the fact of your life, the facts, what is true with your life right now. And then look at that with the highest truth. We'll see where that leads us. Turning back to Reverend Georgiana, I love this. She says, to observe Lent according to the Spirit rather than the letter, we must fast from criticism and condemnation and feast in brotherly love. She goes on to say, fast from false beliefs and sickness and weakness, and feast on the truth of God's omnipresent, perfect life. Fast from false beliefs and lack and limitation, and feast on the truth of God's bountiful goodwill. We are on a journey, a magnificent journey. This is a great time to be alive, because we've been given the opportunity to see life on life's terms. And we can interpret that, the facts of our life, however we choose. And if we can steer ourselves away from the condemnation and the sickness and the weakness and the lack and the doubt and the fear, what we get to feast on, the diet of good words that are positive and loving, and where we arrive is God's bountiful goodwill. Nothing is finer than God's bountiful goodwill. Say, God's bountiful goodwill. God's bountiful goodwill. Doesn't it feel good? That's a high truth. Let your choice in this Lenten journey, a spiritual practice of seeing the higher truth no matter what. And we'll let that be our journey together. Thank you.
Step out on the water, release your faith. Every step is stronger. Step out on the water.